Hi guys, today let's go back to my book writing actually. Let's review what has been done before, especially the Schumpeterian Growth Theory, the model developed by I can't pronounce the name right, Aghion and Howitt. There's two guys. It's an interesting story that if you think about this, Schumpeter wrote his book and published the book in 1942. And then their seminal work by um, Aghion and Hoyt is published in 1992. That's like 50 years apart from it. So what lesson can we learn from this? I say that earlier, but I'll say that again, that Schumpeter was mostly right, even though his conclusion is a little bit premature because he basically says that creative destruction is the fundamental feature of capitalism. And I would say that's not the case. Creative destruction makes sense in his time back in 1942 for two reasons. Number one, the one that I already said that if you watch the TV drama Downton Abbey, you'll see that's a new epoch, new era that where um, the old power, old fame, old wealth, old rich has been dying, and then giving the stage to the new way of market, the new productions, so that's one thing, you know. The second reason is that we have to think that in 1942, the world is just experienced World War One, and then it's in the middle of World War Two. So the world, the armed conflict is the one of the most effective ways to do the destruction. You know, it leads to casualties, injuries, and damages in the speed that the other ways are not possible. So if you take these two things into account, you would give a lot of lenience, get a lot of benefit of a doubt to Schumpeter when he claimed that you know creative destruction is the mode of the is the ongoing feature of a fundamental capitalism. It's just like Karl Marx. He basically claimed that capitalism will be replaced by socialism, and eventually by Marxism, by communism. You know, premature. Okay, I don't know if Karl Marx would, come to a different conclusion when he see that the capitalism is capable to self-modifying, self-correcting, moving towards the better way of um, productions and also the social orders and market everything. So you have to, don't go premature. You have to be patient, especially at the beginning of a new era. You have to kind of like, number one, you need sharp eyes to see some little things that you might be able to tell that little things maybe go big later. So we won't make this, claims like the world is doomed to destructions or to communism. None of them is a hold. Okay, but again, once I said, I want to emphasize this that Schumpeter in his time he is mostly excused because think of this: when the horse wagon is given by Ford Motor, black teeth, right? If you think about this, that's a fundamental transformative changes, you know, never seen that before. When you think about, the human messengers to be replaced by telegram, that's another epoch making difference, right? When you think about the war, Chinese have been fighting war for for 1,000 years, and then they what they use is that the arrows and bows, right? But now you're doing that with rifles and the cannons and the machine guns. That's a game changing paradigm shifting differences. So it's very easy. Again, let's not forget the Titanics. Before Titanics, we had a sailboat. We used the sails and to let the wind blow it and then drive the boat to anywhere. But with the Titanics, that's a no comparison. So think of this. That's why, given this dramatic changes, Schumpeter is excused, but not so much for Schumpeterian growth theory. You know, uh, Instead of I just call that the SGT, right? So instead of calling them, getting them their name wrong, just let's just call it Schumpeterian growth theory (SGT). Now, not for this one, because this one you have to think about this. The one way I can think about it is that from 1942 to 1992, 50 years apart, half a century apart. You know, I really think that SGT should have done a better job. Let me make a comparison or a kind of a metaphor. In statistics, we have two major approaches. One is that the ordinary least square, another is the maximum likelihood, right? So when it comes to linear model, when you can assume that the arrow has a normal distribution, when the arrow has the IID, which means that the independent identical distribution, the ordinary least square and the maximum likelihood, they produce the same identical result. But when we talk about the statistics, when we talk about the philosophy behind, the two is very different. Okay. So basically, for OLS, ordinary least square, the mission is to find the best fitting line. Basically, you have a scatter plot. That you have a data point that's all over, spread all over, right? And you try to draw a line and find out which line is the best one to summarize all the scatter plot. You know, and then, so that's one philosophy. Another philosophy is MLE. MLE, by the way, statistically is a more generic. Ordinary least square is like a one trick pony. Maximum likelihood is more like a more generic because it can fit different distributions. If you have a Poisson distribution, you have a binomial, you have all the other distributions, MLE can still fit, but not with the ordinary least square. But so basically, so the difference is that in our case, to draw this analogy closer, is that in our case, the SGT, Schumpeterian Growth Theory scholars in 1992, they basically what they did is basically to use the same line, the so-called best fitting line, drawn by Schumpeter, right, in 1942. And then they started with that line and then found out whether that line still fit. They did two things. Number one is that operationalize that Schumpeter best fitting line, right? And then that's one thing. Another thing is that they're trying to find out that if that they can generalize that Schumpeter line to fully develop the model and then make that. So that's basically what they did. However, it's basically you remember my favorite slogan is that you cannot cross the same river twice. Why? Because the water is flowing. It's flowing from this one to this one. In 1942, when Schumpeter was drawing his thesis of constructive creative destruction, he sit in the river. But in 1992, the river it's not the same river. That's why the key lesson is that whether we should start from the existing theory or should we start doing it or more like LS maximum least square. We're trying to find the most fitting, most likely world. Okay, instead of focusing on that best fitting line, we try to find out what's the most likely world. So that's what we should be doing. Bear in mind that the river in the 1992 is maybe very different from the river in 1942. And you don't want to take that best fitting line in 1942 to, blindly applies that to today's world in 1992, let alone today, right? So that's the basic theory is that when we do the, you know, research with the beginning from the existing theory versus we do the research beginning with the existing reality today, and then the result is very different. Let's stop here.